Okay, what we're going to be focusing on today is the Dremel 300 series moto tool. Okay, now I'm going to show you what the case and everything looks like that it comes in. This is the actual moto tool. Okay, when you buy a Dremel Moto tool, one of the things I was going to suggest to you is a Dremel Moto tool. A Dremel Moto tool is a really handy thing to have. Now, this one that I bought actually came in a case like this that you see here. This is the actual case that came with the Dremel Moto tool. Okay, now I'm going to show you what the Moto tool looks like. Then I'm going to show you some things that were inside the case, and I'll also show you some attachments that I find pretty handy to use with my Moto tool. Okay, so what we have in front of us, this is the Dremel Moto Dremel 300 series Moto tool. Now, one of the things you're going to notice about this tool is one of the things you need to keep in mind when you select a Dremel tool. There's different when you go to places like Home Depot and you go to places like Lowe's and places. There's different types of Dremel Moto tools that you can buy. You can get multi-speed Dremel tools. You can get single-speed Dremel tools. You can also get ones that have higher RPMs and lower RPMs, and that's going to be that's one of the things that affects the price of the Dremel tool. The fancier the Dremel tool, the higher the price is going to be. Now, what I suggest you do, if you're just starting out getting a Dremel tool, I suggest you get the 300 series that I have here. Now, I think when I bought this Dremel tool, I think this was about $80 when I bought it, but the thing that comes in to keep in mind is one of the reasons I like this Dremel Moto tool here is it has a speed control. As you're going to see here, and there's a little gauge here, and this is actually the RPMs. Some moto tools, when you turn them on, they're one speed. This actually allows you to adjust the speed of the Dremel tool as it's going. It's got a variable speed control in here. Now, one of the advantages of having that is, depending how fast the shaft is turning, some bits and things that you're using are going to require different RPMs to use. That's one of the reasons why this is handy. The RPMs are actually listed right here that it's running at, so it makes it very easy to set it at the setting that you need. That's one of the advantages of having a multi-speed Dremel tool. Now, one of the things that you're going to probably wonder is when you buy a Dremel speed moto tool, how do you attach things to it? Well, now you're going to notice on this Dremel tool, there's a little like a bit attachment on the end. And what this does is this actually turns. Okay, on the end of the Dremel tool, there's actually an attachment that turns. Okay, now what you're going to do when you want to put attachments on, I'm going to show that to you next. This is actually what it looks like. This is the part that turns, and you're going to notice on the end of the Dremel tool that it's almost like there's a little set of jaws in here. This is what grabs onto the attachments that you're going to use to attach to your moto to the Moto tool. Okay, let me go ahead and show you what comes in the case when you buy it as well. Okay, and then we'll talk more about the attachments. Okay, now I use my Dremel tool a lot, so some of the things I have in here they're not in exactly the right spot, but that's because I use my Dremel tool a lot. This is the actual case, what it's going to look like when you buy a Dremel tool. It's going to come in a case like this, and when you open up the case, inside the Dremel Moto tool, inside the case, you're actually going to have compartments in here that are used for different things like blade storage, storing your bits and things like that. If you have sanding discs, they're going to go in here. The actual Dremel tool will actually be sitting in this trough here. Okay. Now I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the attachments and things that you get. Now, normally when you buy a Dremel Moto tool like this, okay, if you check to see what's on the box, what's on the actual box, it actually will tell you what comes in the kit when you buy it. Now keep in mind, a lot of the bits and things that I bought that are inside here, these did not come with the kit. I had to buy these separate, but wherever you buy your Dremel Moto tool at, they'll actually have a wall that has a whole bunch of bits and things on it that you can choose to go with your Dremel tool. Now, let me show you the accessory kit I got with one of the ones that I bought. Okay. Okay, let me go ahead and move this out of the way. Okay, now one of the Dremel tools I bought, this is one of the actual boxes that I bought that actually came with it. Now, this is one of the boxes that came with the Dremel tool that I bought. Now, keep in mind, This was a kit that came inside the box. Now, when you buy your Dremel Moto tool, it will list on the side of the contents what sort of attachments and things it has that comes with the Moto tool. This is what came with mine. It had a little parts box in it, and inside the parts box, it had a few attachments and things on the inside. Like it had some things. It had things like a buffing wheel that you would use to clean off metal and things, light rust and things. It had some bits for sanding and things inside, like these right here, for doing different types of sanding and things. It also had some polishing wheels that came with it. Okay, it had some little buffing wheels. The type of kit that you get is going to vary depending on the type of motor tool that you buy. It's going to vary somewhat as far as what you get, but this is actually what came with my kit when I bought my moto tool. Okay, let me show you one other thing here too. And I want to mention that the Dremel Moto tools really make great Christmas gifts, because you're going to find that having a Dremel tool is for me, it's irreplaceable in my workshop. And my mom's actually bought me one or two for my birthdays, and it's really come in handy. Now, let me show you something about this Dremel tool. Now, this model that I have here, keep in mind that Dremel's always coming out with new models. I've had this Dremel tool I've had, let's see what this is. This Dremel tool I've had probably almost 10 years, the one that I have in front of me. It's probably about 10 years I've had it. So these do last a long time. Now let me show you what the attachments look like as well, and then I'll show you how they work. When you buy the kit, if you want to get actual attachments to go onto the moto tool, it's going to come in packages like this. Now, for example, this is a mandrel. Now, what this does is this is what allows you to attach sanding discs and things to your moto tool. I'm going to show you how that works then as well. On the moto tool itself, I'll show you how they attach. You can buy things like this. You can buy things like the actual discs. This is what you're going to find in the display next to the moto tool. You're actually going to find these little kits and things in the display next to the moto tool. Now, the one thing to bear in mind, some of these attachments can be a little pricey for the moto tool. I bought some that can be $20, $30. Depends on what you want to get. Now, my advice is, if you're buying a moto tool, one of the things I suggest you do is definitely get an extra mandrel. Definitely get an extra one of these to go with it. Because what can happen is, if this falls on the floor, you drop this, and I've dropped mine at least 5 times. Normally, when you drop the moto tool, normally it's not a catastrophic injury to the moto tool. They're designed to be pretty rugged. But what can happen is, when this hits the ground, there's a chance you could bend this shaft. And when the shaft is out of balance, it can be a little bit dangerous to use by having the shaft out of balance. So you always want to make sure that you have extra ones of these when you buy one. So my advice is, when you buy your moto tool, definitely buy an extra shaft to go along with it as well. Okay. Now, something else you want to buy, the actual attachment on here that actually goes on the end with the screws. Now, this is actually the second one I've gone through. This is actually where the bits and everything attach. Now, this is actually the second one of these that I've gone through. They also sell these as well in the section where all the motor tool bits and things are. You'll see these as well, okay, on the end here. This is what the actual bits and things attach to. Now, one of the things I also want to mention to you but before I continue to the next part, it's very important when you use a moto tool, always wear safety glasses and eye protection. You know, protect your eyes and things, whatever best way possible. These moto tools have been known that when you're using things like grinding discs and things, this is absolutely mandatory in using a moto tool. This tool runs at a very, very high RPM. When things break on this tool or they come off this tool, it can come out very violently. Now, a good example is these grinding discs that I have. Okay. Now, I'm going to show you how all these attach here in just a second. I'm going to show you. Okay, let me get this out for you. Okay, get one out for you. This is one of the grinding discs that I have. I'm going to show you how these work. What these little grinding discs do is inside the tool, this is what that little mandrel, mandrel bit looks like. That's what this is right here, okay? Now, the way this works, and this is what I'm going to show you. On the moto tool, you actually have a set of jaws on the end of this. What you do is you take the mandrel and you attach it, you put it inside here, like this, and then you actually tighten this down like I'm showing here. And then that tightens this in place. Now on the end of this little mandrel, there's a little screw on the end of this thing, and you take the screw out like I'm showing you here. And when you take the screw out, then you can do things like attach these sanding discs and things, these grind off wheels, cut off wheels. The screw actually goes through the cut off wheel, and then it actually attaches to the mandrel. Okay, and that's basically, that's how you get this attachment to work. Now you actually have the moto tool connected to the mandrel, connected to the grinding wheel. Now what I was saying to you about using eye protection, the reason it's important is these grinding wheels have been known to break, and it's very easy to have one of these break off when you're grinding metal. That's why you always want to make sure that you have eye protection on. And another thing I suggest you do, in addition to having eye protection, always have something protecting your arms and things as well. Maybe have a clothing or something, or a jacket protecting your arms, because these little pieces, when they fly out, we got to remember this thing's doing a lot of high RPMs as this thing spins. These things will fly everywhere. So that's one of the reasons why having protective clothing and eyeglasses is a must. Now, the one thing you're going to notice, I'm going to show you some of the other attachments as well. Every package that you buy on these things is actually going to have a thing on here that will tell you all the specifics on the back of the package. This is actually what the grinding wheels look like. That's what I was showing you here. And then on the back of it, there's going to be actual care instructions on how to use it. This is going to have things like how many high in RPM can you go using this particular attachment, or whatever you're using. And there's also going to be a little instruction packet inside here as well. When you open this up, there's a little instruction book inside here that actually will show you how to use this attachment as well. It's very important when you use a moto tool, always read the instructions. Always read all the instruction and everything on the back to make sure you know how everything works. There's a little instruction card inside here. Always read how this works before you use it. Dremel Moto tools are very handy to have, but knowing how to use it properly means having to read all those little instruction cards and things inside so you know how your moto tool works. Okay. Now I showed you the attachment with the mandrel, and then I showed you where the little grind off wheel was, which is right here. Now let me show you another attachment that you have. The number of attachments that the moto tools have are in the hundreds. This is just one of the attachments. Now I'm gonna grab some random ones and show you some of the other attachments as well that you can use. Okay, set these over here. Okay, now these are some of my favorite attachments to use. Now I showed you how the mandrel works. One of the other ones I like to use is there's these little sanding drums that actually you can actually buy. They look like little sanding drums. What these are is you buy a little thing that looks like this. It's a little kit. It's a little piece of rubber. It's like a rubber ring on the outside, like a little rubber cylinder. Then you have these little grinding pads. They're like little sanding pads that actually go like sandpaper, and they attach to the outside. And what this does is when you put this in place, it goes the same way the other thing did. It attaches to the end of the moto tool. And what this does is this allows you to do things like high-speed sanding and things. Maybe you have a wood project you want to do sanding on. Well, this will allow you to do that with this high-speed sander. Okay? Now, some of the other attachments we have. You can get what are called these little, I call this the little plunge bit, which is this right here. Now, it might be a little hard to see, but there's actually, it's actually shaped like a barrel on the end of here, and there's actual cutting teeth on the end of this thing that actually cut. This is actually a piece of metal that actually, it's shaped, it's machined, and it actually has like almost like a little ball made out of blades that actually is used for gouging. And like if you want to carve wooden things, or maybe carve your initials in wood or make names, that's what this attachment here is used for. As you can see, it's like a barrel on the end. There's little blades on the end. And what that does is the same thing with the other ones. It attaches to the end, and then that allows you to do things like plunging and engraving and things like that with this attachment here. Okay? You have another attachment. This also is used if you have an area, like if you want to grind something. This is also like almost like a plunging thing, like if you want to mark a hole that you're going to drill, that's what this is for. You actually can take this and you can put it in your wood and you can mark a hole, and then you can use a drill to cut it out later. And this is almost like you're pre-marking your holes in wood. This is another pretty handy bit to have. Now another bit I have is a grinding bit. Now what this is just like the bit I showed you, but it's much more aggressive. And this is used for making channels and wooden things like that. That's what this is. As you can see, This bit actually has, has flat sides on it with blades on the ends of it. Okay, now what this is used for is this is used if you want to make channels in your wooden things, and it does the same thing. It just attaches on the motor tool like that. Okay, now one of the ones I use most is this right here. This is actually a metal grinding wheel that I use. Now you're going to notice it has bits and everything that are turned almost like a spiral pattern. What this does is this allows you to grind down metal and things very quickly using this grinding pattern that's on here, as you're going to see here. Now, the one thing keep in mind when you're using these, when you're using something like this to grind down metal, you have to keep in mind that this gets very hot when you're grinding down metal. So when you're going to change bits on these, you need to be very careful that you don't touch this when it's hot, because this will get pretty warm when you're using it. I have actually gotten burns on these before by touching them before they cool down. So just remember, anything you're using with the moto tool is going to get hot. It's going to generate heat, so you need to make sure you let it cool down before you try to remove it or change the bits. Okay. Now there's something else I wanted to point out too on the moto tool as well. The actual piece that holds the bits and everything on the end, that actually goes on the end. When you need to make an attachment, what you do is there's a button on the moto tool. What you do is you essentially, the shaft turns. When you push this down, this locks the shaft from turning. Then you can move this and open this up, and it makes it easier getting the bits in and out depending what size you're working with. That's why they have this, so you can adjust this. And what you do is you hold this in like this, and then you turn this on here, and then this is what opens and closes, just like a drill press, so you can get your bits and things in and out of it like I have here. Okay. All right. Now, one thing I wanted to say in final and closing is that keep in mind that this is just one model of Dremel tool. Now, there's a lot of attachments you can get. Like you can get vices and things that will allow you to turn this into a little mini drill press. Dremel has a lot of different attachments and things that they have. Now, one of the things I suggest you do, if you don't know which model you want to buy, or you're undecided, go to the Dremel site that they have on the internet. The Dremel site is very helpful. It'll show you all the different attachments and everything that you need, and also what you might want to do when you're buying a Dremel tool of your own. And also I want to mention that I find that the Dremel tool, like I was saying, I find it's pretty irreplaceable in my workshop. Now, you also can get different, different sizes of Dremel tools and things like that. But this particular one for me has worked out very well. Okay, I hope that this video was informative and taught you a little bit about the type of Dremel Moto tool that I use in my workshop. And I want to thank you again, by the way, for tuning into the Curtis Place channel here on YouTube. And I hope you'll have a great day. All right, and we'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye now.